Our last type of confidence interval we're going to learn about is the z confidence interval for pi. So we did a z confidence interval for mu when sigma was known. We did a t confidence interval for mu when sigma wasn't known. And now we're going to do a z, back to z, confidence interval for pi. So pi is the population proportion. So percents, right? If you just think percent, and they're going to write it as a decimal. So we're going to capture a percent. So my formula has changed. So my point estimate this time for my sample is p hat. So that's the sample proportion, plus or minus the z critical value times, and this is the standard deviation. It's p hat times q hat over n, then I take the square root. So remember, q hat is the complement of p hat. So if p hat is 0.52, then q hat is 0.48. Remember, together they have to equal 1. All right, so they're complements of one another. So I have two assumptions this time. One is that p hat is from a simple random sample. Remember, we learned that a while ago at the beginning of the course, that we like simple random samples for our data. And then number two is that n is large. Size is always an important thing when it comes to assumptions. And I have to do a little check system and a little math for this one. So n times p hat is greater than or equal to 5. And n times q hat is greater than or equal to 5. So n times p hat is actually number of successes, and the other one would be number of failures. If you thought about political polling, it would be number of people in favor of Joe Biden, and this would be the number of people opposed to Joe Biden, or not in favor, just the opposite, okay? And as long as we have 5 of each, it's large enough to do our confidence interval. So we're going to go back to our chart with z, but remember this chart that I put on the very last page. If you look at the very bottom, those are the z. If you look here at the notation, that's z. So 90% for z, which we talked about before, was 1.645. 95% for z is 1.960. And 99% for z is 2.576. So the very bottom row is z. Everything above that is t. So it's one chart for everything, for z and t. T values with degrees of freedom are before that. The very last one would be z, the very bottom. So if you just have one chart to refer to, you have all those critical values for confidence intervals. Okay? So our next video will do a z confidence interval for pi.